I think this is one of my more favorite sunrise photos I've ever taken. And I've taken several over the years, but none of them have turned out quite like this. And the defining feature for me here is the fog. And that's actually what I had in mind when I set out to take a picture on this particular morning. I was driving to work, and when I bike, there's a slightly different route I take than when I drive. And I knew that if I drove, I could go past this field. This is actually about 2 blocks from my house looking eastward. We live kind of on the edge of town. And so I knew if I drove, I could go past this field, and I knew that it was foggy. And so I brought my camera, my D750 and 70-200 lens. And I thought that I could get a picture of kind of the rolling fog as the sun was coming up. And I did get a picture, which you can see if you go to the actual Weekly 50 blog. But what I didn't intend was about 100 yards down the road, as I was leaving the initial spot where I took my picture, I saw the sun coming up, and I was just dumbfounded that it was so deep orange with these streaks of clouds above it. And it was behind this tree in the middle, so it was casting this glow over well, it cast this shadow, but then on the sides of shadow, there's this fog that's on the ground. I mean, this is a lot of elements came together for this picture that I didn't plan. I didn't even plan on taking a picture of the sunrise, just a foggy field. And yet here it was, this sunrise, which is really cool to be able to capture. In the moment, though, I was able to adjust the settings on my camera to get just this particular picture. If you point your camera straight at the sun, which is what I did here, I mean, it's literally pointed into the sun, it's going to be way too bright because your camera is going to try and expose for well, it's going to try and get an even exposure depending on how you've got your camera setting, your camera is set up. And so I took a few pictures, and everything was just totally blown out because the camera was trying to get this balance between highlights and shadows. What I actually wanted was an underexposed picture. So I shot this, I think, at f11 to get everything really sharp, and instead of f4 or f2.8, because that's too much. You're letting in too much light at that point, and you won't get this nice sharp photo. So I shot at f11. I shot at low ISO, and I used the exposure compensation dial to stop down by 2 stops so that the image on the back of my camera was actually really, really dark. What that does, though, is it preserves the highlight details. And when you shoot in RAW, you can then edit the picture afterwards to make it how you want. You can bring out all the color detail in the shadow areas that's lost, and retain all the detail in the highlight areas that would otherwise be kind of lost. It'd be too bright to do anything with. The result is a picture that I really like, and I don't think I'll get the chance to see this picture again based on time of day and fog and atmospheric conditions. It was really cool to be able to get this. You can't see it in this one too well on YouTube, but if you go to the blog, well, if you're listening to this on the blog, you can probably see this, but if you're listening to this on YouTube, you probably can't. There's some power lines way in the back that are really tiny. And if you click on if you're on the blog, you click the Flickr link, you can see the full-size picture. If you're on YouTube, click the link in the description to go to the blog, and then go to Flickr. And you can see those power lines. And that's like the icing on the cake, seeing those power lines, because it gives a sense of scale that you might not otherwise have. You just get a sense for how deep this whole picture is. It goes back miles and miles and miles, because you see those little power lines there, these huge power lines that show up as tiny little specks on the horizon. So I really like this photo. I'm grateful for the opportunity to take it. If it was any earlier or later in the year, the sun would have been up too early or too late for me to see it on the way to work. The foggy conditions, that doesn't happen too often. So it's a really fun picture to take.